And let me say what a pleasure it is to introduce Ikuko Kanazawa to you today. She is a scholar visiting with MEDIAX and working with Professor Pamela Hinds, also working with Jeremy Valenson's lab and Renata Kruger's lab from time to time. As a part of the research theme that is underway on measuring and increasing the productivity of people who work with information, Ikuko is responsible for some remarkable enhancements to a number of devices that are used in office environments today. And as a technologist and an investigator, she is now turning her attention to understanding people, the way that they work, the way that they work together, and the way that they work in organizations, to understanding how to enable teamwork in the future and what that means for product development. So welcome to Ikuko, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you for introducing me. Hello, I'm Ikuko Kanazawa from Konica Minolta Business Technologies. Today I'd like to share my experience working with teams and what we did to encourage teams and maximize the team activity. Let me start with my interests. I have two interests. One is for printing technology. And this is related to my background, so you can find out by the background I'm talking later. Right now, as Marcia introduced me, most of my interest is about how we can encourage or support teams. As we all know that working in teams has enormous possibilities rather than working alone. From my own experience working in teams, I realized that how much gain we can get from the teamwork depends on how seriously we think about teamwork and how we encourage them. I think there are two effects we can get by working in teams. One is productivity. By sharing knowledge, work, and information with team members, it enables to increase productivity rather than just working alone. Second is creativity. By getting feedback, influence from team members, it enables to increase creativity rather than just thinking alone. In today's talk, I'd like to talk about a bit of my background and experience working in teams and detail of items we try to encourage our team. So my background. I work in Konica Minolta Business Technologies, which is one of the group companies in Konica Minolta. Maybe you, all of you know Konica Minolta as a camera company, or film company, but unfortunately we don't make cameras or films right now. And Konica Minolta Business Technologies is the largest company in Konica Minolta Group right now. Our company provides a product and systems and solutions that satisfy the demand of the office and production-ready markets. The product is laser printers or copiers, showing this slide. This is only a part of our product lineups. And the technology that copiers and laser printers use for imaging is electrophotography. Our company completed its first copier in 1960, so we have a lot of history and enormous knowledge about electrophotography. The work for research and development of laser printers are more to product improvement. We have particular technology to work on, that is electrophotography, and have a lot of know-how for those technologies and how to work on it. So even though working in teams, we didn't have to care much about team or teamwork because the work style is fixed, stable, and have worked well. At first 4 years of my career, my work was related to laser printers. After that, I joined the new imaging technology team until now. The goal for a new imaging technology team is to create technologies for future products. Drawing widely from technologies including beyond electrophotography, thank you, to meet the need for the future product. Sorry. Okay. Looking for the new imaging technology is a kind of technology innovation, something very different from our usual product improvement work. To meet this uncertain, unfixed, and also challenging goal, we have to do anything as possible, including encouraging team for efficient teamwork. This is a process we took to find out what is new imaging technology and how to create it. There are two main parts in this process. First is to select the needs, find out what kind of technology is required. It's the one on the green one. And the second is create ideas to meet the requirement for the needs, and it's the orange part. At the first part, the most important thing was to collect and share information. That is relevant to productivity. At the second part, the most important thing is creating ideas. That is relevant to creativity. So we came up with 3 items which we thought to be effective to increase ability of teams. One is diversity of team members. Second is a way to share information. Third is the way to share ideas. From these 3 items, we tried 6 tools and means shown in this chart. Each has expectation for work, which it works with productivity or creativity. And so this is my experience working to these 6 tools, and I'm going to show the detail about it. So first item, diversity of team members for productivity. One means we took was location. We placed team members in 2 locations. One is in Nagoya, which is a place, our headquarters of R&D Division our team belongs to. And the other is in Tokyo. There are 2 reasons for placing members in Tokyo. One is that Tokyo is a capital of Japan and is the best place to gather any kind of information. The other is in Tokyo, there are headquarters of other Konica Minolta Group companies. So we expected that by the members in Tokyo, we can collaborate with other group companies in Konica Minolta Group. And the expectation really worked well. Another means we took for the diversity of team members is the experience of team members. We consider about the team members' experience because all the team members were from R&D division. That means all of us were previously electrophotography engineers. This was good in quick understanding each other because we have same backgrounds. But for creating ideas, we concerned that we might stick to the electrophotography too much, that can't get much new ideas. So we regulated team members by experience, 0 to 4 years of experience, which is kind of young generations, and to over 10 years, highly experienced engineers. By this composition, a good collaboration occurred. Young members came up with many new ideas, and highly experienced members add more detail to it by their knowledge. But what we expected by for the diversity by experience was to get new ideas, not bias. For these expectations, it didn't work well. The second item, the way to share information, we tried one tool and one means. As located in two places, sharing information was a difficult task. So we strictly persuaded to share information among all team members and at the same time use tools to help it. The tool we used was Company Network BBS. This became the basis for information sharing. We can categorize the information, add and update to other members' submittings. We also made reports for every business trips, attending conference, business shows, and meeting with another companies, etc. And lastly, we noticed about the report on BBS and also shared the important issue briefly at the regular meetings. One more thing we tried to work with sharing information, we used visualizing. The reason we used visualizing was we thought it might help team members understand about the information and easily get to the same vision. For example, for the discussion about the future product's business model, we use a lot of visuals along with words to explain the business model. Despite the expectation, this sometimes leads to the misunderstanding of the actual business model. I think it's because of for uncertain information, visuals affect too strong. And moving on to the third item, the way to create ideas. We use one tools and one means. The tool we used is showing here 2-axis matrix for idea creativity. All the members in our team brainstormed using this matrix one by one and hand it to the next person. That means for our team, idea creation was kind of based on personal operation. We use this 2-axis matrix for two reasons. One is to help person to create ideas by going through this matrix. The other is to avoid overlap ideas among team members. And moreover, by overlooking at this matrix, you can see which kind of concept or function is based, the idea is based, so they can find out priority of where to think or create ideas next. Well, let me explain about this two-axis matrix in detail. The vertical is concept, and the box short here, under here, the box for the object, and the arrows for the effect. This is a simplified of the operation of imaging technology. Like for example, inkjet, signal effect module. In this case, the module is inkjet head, and module affect color material, in this case ink, and color material affect to paper and make an image on paper. The lateral is function and effect, like force, electric field, heat, sonic, and so on. Again, talking about inkjet, inkjet can be said using the concept shown below and using effect of force, or heat. By this kind of thought, we created ideas getting through this matrix. The idea created by the matrix is summarized in one seed. You can see this seed from the link in the matrix, which is like there is a number in the matrix, and if you click it, you can reach the link to the idea summary sheet. The distinguished feature of this idea summary sheet is brief image of mechanism for the ideas. Somehow the visual image stimulated other members' creativity greatly. I think this is because we tend to think mechanism by visual, like how force affects the object, so on. So let me review the result of these 6 tools and means. For productivity, collection and share information work well by the location and using BBS, the tools, but somehow making reports for every business trip or so on was useful but need too much effort. So we are looking for some more efficient information sharing tool or way for it. Visualizing was not so effective for sharing uncertain information, as I said previously. For creativity, only successful thing was visualizing the imaging summary sheet. We got ideas near 200, but it was actually biased. One thing is that diversity of team members was not enough. It was difficult to get rid of experience. And the 2-axis matrix was only used for managing overlap of ideas. It is interesting, but hardly nobody got influence or got trigger of new ideas from it. So this is the summary of my talk today. Although we are not fully successful about creativity, we came into 7 practical ideas for new imaging technology by encouraging teams by our own ways, which is the 6 tools and means I talked about previously. We are continuing research and experiment on 3 of these 7 ideas right now. Some of the tools and means we tried was successful, but I want to find out more about improvement of creating ideas. By coming here in Stanford, I already got some ideas for improvement. For example, with diversity, collecting people from different backgrounds might be difficult in companies, but like team members joining joining 2 or more projects might affect diversity. For the way to create ideas, I'm continuing looking for the crew. So if anybody who has a suggestion, please feedback to me. Currently, I'm doing 7 joint research here in Stanford. It is about creativity in workplace and furthermore. I'd like to find out more ways and ideas to encourage teams during my stay in Stanford, collaborating in my joint researches. So my talk is all for this is all for my talk today. Thank you for listening.
That's an exciting experiment that you did, looking at a number of different ways to involve different people and looking at the outcomes. We have some time for questions, and if you have questions, would you be willing to take a few questions? Yes.
So there are a lot of work has been done on creativity, and there are a number of techniques other than a 2-axis matrix.
Mm-hmm.
For example, KT, Kepler-Trigo, was very popular with General Electric. KJ, the Japanese method, is used by a lot of banks, and the Miata was designed using the KJ method. TRIS is a method that came out of Russia for creating inventions. brainstorming is commonly used in companies. Why did you pick the two-axis instead of one of those other techniques?
We choose this two-axis based on the methodology I told you or use it. That we thought it was the most fastest way to get practical ideas for technologies, like using this matrix. Like actually, we're maybe only for a company, but we use a lot of use it in a company. So this is one of the reasons we took this two-axis matrix for creativity. And the other is like brainstorming is not familiar was not familiar in my company. So
what about the KJ method?
KJ method. KJ method. Actually, I heard about KJ method first time here in Stanford. So, like, I think we have a lot of effort to do more to finding out the way to create ideas.
Did you find out the difference between your Tokyo team and a Nagoya team?
Yes, actually, one of the expectations was like maybe the Tokyo team and Nagoya team thinks differently. So that, because the work style might be different. So we expected that kind of influence occurred, but actually working together and getting together, like maybe just for Japanese, but like we put ourselves into the workplace for them or like for one place. So they like the kind of difference wasn't not so much short.
Maybe you should have people outside of the company.
Yes, I definitely think so.
There is a school of thought that suggests that widely divergent influences may spark some creativity as they come together. But there is also a school of thought that says if they're too different, people don't even recognize it.
But I guess in Japan, they need more of the divergence.
Yes.
Yeah, my question is that in terms of doing this kind of we might call it intervention or experiment of trying to do things a little bit different. How would you see inside the company, how would you go on evaluate or estimate the change made by this kind of experiment in order to change permanently, if you would want to do that, the practices of how your company operates? How would you would you think about, would you be able to somehow prove that this would be better than what you've been doing before?
Yes, that is one of the kind of problems we're now facing. Like, as I said, my company was only working with laser printers, so this new imaging technology creation was totally new, not totally new, but a kind of new approach, the work we did in our company. So currently we can't measure our effects, but just we show that this kind of methodology is effective because we got a practical 7 ideas and got many ideas from it.
Can I ask you to elaborate on your thinking that prompts you to ask the question? What are you thinking about the way that an experimental activity becomes a standard operating procedure or part of a culture in an organization?
I think I see the motivation issues in twofold. First of all, I think if you generally look into the literature on forest innovation management, in terms of trying to kind of come up with sort of organizational change in order to promote additional creativity. First of all, kind of being able to show that your manipulation or whatever change you implement has some sort of a return on investment that you make. or whatever sort of changes you do. I mean, the little kind of organizational change has been. I'm personally a visitor from Finland, and we've had collaboration with Nokia, who think that kind of experts, or at least very experienced in terms of trying to transform the organization and do different kind of things inside the organization in order to try to keep it alive. With maybe you could say that looking at the stock price of Nokia today, they haven't really been able to do that very effectively. And so try as you may, the organizational change and doing things differently as such might not really be kind of instant way to happiness or innovativeness or creativity, whatever you're looking for. And in that terms, for instance, because my own work has been, I've been doing quite a lot of work in trying to evaluate, characterize different types of idea generation methods. To access matrix is actually something which is pretty new to me, but it's pretty, it doesn't really fall that far from the big part of the literature that describes different types of idea generation methods. There are so many to go around it. You can take all day to listen to them all. The problem is that in terms of kind of trying to see that what would be the kind of proper way for your company to select a new method to use it, no one has really been able to answer that very well. It seems that the successful companies, whatever sort of methods they're using, they seem to be very much like, good examples might be like IDEO. They've been pretty open about the methodologies and ways of how they do things. But it's not about having one method or two methods. They have like whole deck of methods which you can buy from the standard bookstore. And the question is that if you kind of deliver this kind of pack of methods around the organization, is that going to make a change? And I mean, this is actually kind of a real problem that I don't think no one can really crack it or answer it very simply. I mean, the kind of attempts to measure the effectiveness of these kind of interventions is not very easy when you go to like real world organization. We can try to do that as part of like academic work. But then again, there are like, for instance, starting from social psychology, we know the Faulkner effect, which tells you that basically whatever you do, you might always end up getting some sort of output and maybe something that looks like an increase over the baseline. But that's basically just like a, what do you call it? Placebo effect. No way.
Want to comment on his response?
Yes, I think currently, I personally think this two-matrix x-axis didn't work for, well, it worked because we could create some kind of ideas, but it works, but it has it's biased, and it didn't really come up with novel ideas. But some of our group in our company thought this was very good because we came up with many ideas. So we always count the effect by numbers. We tend to count effect by numbers. So they're now using this axis for the idea creativity. But I think that is a problem. Yeah, I think it definitely needs some kind of way to evaluate the method, the ways to encourage teamwork.
The imperative of creativity is an urgent imperative for organizations around the world. I think that the continual experimentation with new ways to help usually teams, but sometimes starting with an individual, become more creative in a way that adds value to the objective that people are working on, is an objective around the world. We currently have underway through Media X several projects. The project that you're working on, that has to do with creativity and culture, is showing some very interesting developments and insights on how culture influences creativity.
Yes, joining the research of creativity and culture, that helped me to have ideas that our standard is not a standard in world, in the global world. So I'm very interested in the research right now and want to find out the good things about Eastern cultures and the good things about Western cultures and how we can collaborate for more productivity and creativity.
I found Nisbet's book, Geography of Thought, very helpful, and maybe you've read it, but it maybe describes the differences in the
Can you elaborate on that?
Nisbet's, it's Nisbett, Geography of Thought is his book. With a lot of research has been done. So, for example, if you show Japanese college students a picture and you show American college students a picture and ask them what they saw, the answer is quite different because of their culture and background, and so they don't see the same thing. For example, in the classic example he uses is you've got a picture with fish and plants and a picture of an aquarium sort of thing, and you ask American students what they saw, and they remember the big fish and some other things. You ask the Japanese students what they saw, and they talk about all of the complexity and the things and how they relate together. To a very high percentage, a different answer.
And working in global teams, on assignments that often have creativity as their focus, that presents some challenges in terms of what does that mean? What does creativity mean?
Yeah, that's a lot of the work that I'm involved with has to do with remote virtual teams. And you would have much more heterogeneous mix on your team, culturally heterogeneous, because these are people scattered all over the world. They are in a situation where they have very little face-to-face contact, so they have to communicate somehow through technology. And the kind of stuff we keep bumping up with, a lot of the creativity, there's even some arguments that the computer-aided stuff can encourage certain kinds of creativity. There's certain blocking functions when people are together in a room that don't occur on when you have computers and people are participating individually or even anonymously and so on. There's stuff we're learning about that. But the thing we keep bumping up against in terms of creativity and remote virtual team, two very simple things. Trust, which all the literature shows is a very critical element in innovation. My willingness to open up, to play with ideas, to try out different kinds of ideas, and so on, depends on the psychological safety of the team. And that's harder and certainly at least slower to develop in remote virtual teams. And serendipity, the bumping into somebody in the hallway and starting to share ideas that people just happen to bump into each other. And those are the two things we're having the most trouble replicating in talking about remote virtual teams.
Maybe one of the new job titles of the future, the serendipity engineer.
Yeah. Well, the question is, when you have people who are totally dependent on technology, how do you create technology that encourages serendipity?
Yeah. You working on that?
Don't have an answer yet.
Okay. Well, keep us posted. This is an interesting group if you do. Yes.
Yeah, from your experiment, I was wondering, since you have two diversified groups, one is very experienced, one is a lot of newcomers.
Yes.
From the idea and the creativity standpoint, do you have quantified analysis as which group have better idea or more idea, and why?
Why? Why? Well, the question for the first, the answer for the first question is definitely the younger generation came up with the new ideas, because I think it is because the highly experienced engineers has their own stable work style of the fixed way for the triumph, and I think they tend not to get away from that work style or way of thinking.
Do you think this is more culture related?
Yes, I think maybe the Western or United States people came up with this same project. I think they definitely don't use two-axis mattress. I think they use something different and maybe get into more novel ideas. I think I realized coming in Stanford that we thought this is very novel, but novelty is very different. Has meanings in Western countries and Eastern countries.
Thank you.
So over here and then.
Thank you, Ikuko, to present interesting and emerging issues for most companies. That is how to manage the knowledge of the companies. And I understand that there are two levels of knowledge management. The first is general knowledge management, and the second is specific knowledge management. And I noticed that you use some general tools like PBS to share information or management this kind of knowledge. But I'm wondering that what kind of systems do you use to manage the specific knowledge, like some software company, they use some tools to support collaborative working among the developers. That is kind of knowledge management system. Do we have any this kind of management system to support knowledge sharing?
Actually, no, not at all. I think the BBS we used was only the kind of software tools for our teams. I don't know why, but my company doesn't use such kind of knowledge management tools much. Yeah.
It's a good question. It might be an opportunity to brainstorm tools that other people know of. And so on those two levels of innovation, are any of the folks who are here familiar with tools that they have seen be used in an interesting way? First, the general knowledge, tools for capturing and sharing general knowledge.
I could kind of comment on this one in terms of, if I may have another ideal example. Maybe it's a lot in this circumstance.
We'll all go buy the book in the bookstore later.
I don't think you can buy this one, but it's not very long time since I was on the campus. There was a presentation from IdeaPop there. They used to be a small business. They have consultants, and so all of their kind of, would you say, IP or intellectual property that they have is basically invested in people. And nothing is going to come out of it without the right people. And in terms of kind of trying to see, there's kind of, I see this kind of connection between the team diversity and knowledge management that they have in particular. Because unlike maybe you were making reference to software engineering where a lot of this kind of shared knowledge is also embedded in the artifacts that people are working. A lot of software companies have a lot of like their own code repositories, which are sort of important part of their kind of competitive asset in terms of if they can do something much quicker, much faster, more reliable, if they using their own stuff, whatever it is inside house, it's always an asset. But that's I wouldn't really count that maybe as a knowledge management as such. It's an important part. It's more like their personal. I mean, all those companies also have habits and stuff like that. I would kind of more put them in the same line there. The part about the idea was that what they found when the organization has been growing and growing, they because if all the knowledge is mostly embedded with the people, they used to be very good at compiling these what they would call like ideal teams, people that would have whatever it was the correct amount of like heterogeneous people to come up with a team that would be able to tackle whatever task they were working. But as the company has been growing, it's too big to work like that. So no one really knows very well, all the other members of the organization, now that they have over 500 people, even over 200 people have IDEO Colorado. So now they've been also now struggling and building a knowledge management system, you may use that word, which allows you just to track down the particular competences and knowledge in the company, inside those individuals, so that they would be able to, when they start assembling the team, so that they can kind of extend beyond like the regular social cycles. I think there's some sort of like a argument in social sciences that you can't actually, the kind of natural group size of how many people you can manage in your kind of immediate surroundings is not really that big, maybe like 150 people or so. And when you kind of start to go outside that, then you will lose your contact with people. And
thank you.
One aspect of it.
Other thoughts on managing the big ideas? How about on the domain specific, on the specific? Anybody aware of tools that have been interesting to use?
I don't think tools are that important. It is actually the people. We have more tools than what we know to do with it. And if the people knows how to use the tool, even the existing tool can do very much. You go to ask Steve Jobs what tool he using Apple. I'm sure there's no such fancy tools. Many fancy books written by the people who have never lived in the real world before. So it's the people.
It is the people. And I think the idea that in a trusting environment that there are serendipitous idea exchanges is very much the kind of exchange that Media X supports, and that all of you who are here today are opening yourselves to in conversation. You had a comment.
I simply wanted to second your first comment about IDEO and second. But to me, some of the most interesting things that are happening in Silicon Valley are IDEO, which if you haven't had any exposure to, you should see. And within Stanford, the design school, you may not have been here for long, but the design school essentially is doing things that are very similar to IDEO. And I think I mean, as somebody who went to the business school at Stanford, the design school has, I think, radically changed the mindset by opening up the diversity of criteria by which you evaluate a possible project. And I remember it was the design school that caused the business school to finally start being concerned about cost as a key issue. When I was there a long time ago, there was very little emphasis on cost or the economic feasibility or something. And the design school has brought it front and center. And
it's one of the criteria.
Yeah, it's the same culture and mindset as IDEO. So your suggestion, I think, is right on target for what you need.
Mm-hmm. So in a continuum, compared to the two-axis method, the IDEO method might seem rather chaotic.
Or diversified.
And it's more intuitive rather than analytic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe just to comment on that, I just last Saturday I did a workshop at the D School, Research as Design, which I could recommend to everyone, where they show a couple of techniques to improve creativity, brainstorming, not problem solving, but problem finding, prototyping, and put them together to show how this relates to research and how we can see research also as a design problem. That was very interesting. Maybe also from my own experience at Philips. Philips used to be, Philips Research is about 2,000 researchers in Europe, and nowadays in Asia as well. It used to be a physics company, so we only had physicists and maybe a few chemists. And over the last 10 years, this has been changing. There's now more and more different disciplines there. So we have more designers, we have more psychologists. And in the beginning, this was very difficult because I think it was an issue with trust, you could say. People didn't understand each other, people didn't trust each other. But now that people are getting to know each other more and better, I have the idea that this is very commercial, creative. But again, as Lassie also commented, it's very difficult to
I think that this kind of tool, the tool is kind of practical. But when we create ideas, I think we need something related to emotion, like excitement or fun or like passions. I think the kind of the essential of design thinking is really related to that kind of emotion or the confidence for the people. I haven't joined the seminars or research in B-School yet, but yeah, if I have a chance, I really want to join and know about it.
This idea of getting the social scientists together with the engineers is one that we like very much in the events. And actually the intersection of people and technology, engineering technology, social sciences, and information technology is right where we believe that great creative things can happen, great insights.
I mean, complicate things a little further. I will take one example also from the school context. There's one friend of mine, PhD student, Gregory Press. He's been sort of exploring the diversity issue from a personality point of view, following the, I don't actually remember, there's one emeritus professor who's working on time and technology, of trying to understand what sort of people, in terms of personalities, would make up a good working team. And this is also kind of an interesting way of formulating diversity, which is not in like disciplinary or not in like knowledge terms, but in terms of personality, maybe a communication style, which might also make a quite big difference for the potential productivity or creativity of the particular group. It's kind of interesting work. Gregory had a paper just last this fall at the ISET conference. It's kind of ongoing work, and it has some sort of promise. I don't know if that's kind of one thing that you might think about or consider when you think about diversity.
So there are different social roles or different personalities.
Different personalities, and then you basically thinking goes somewhat like this: that once you have different people with different kind of personalities, they are maybe more adept to certain roles in the group. But if you kind of have like too many different similar kind of people, then you might have difficulties in filling the roles that naturally merge, because some people might be, or instead, if you don't have any people capable to lead the group, then you might end up being too democratic and have difficulties in making decisions when the time comes, even if you're very creative like that.
Thank you. You know, of all of the things that technology can do, it's going to be people and the way that people use technology that actually makes it work or not work. And if the product is technology-based, understanding the way that people are and how the technology can help them be more creative, but relying on the people and the team is actually very much part of where we look at media ads. Ikuko, I want to thank you so much for sharing your research project with us and giving us the opportunity to talk together about creativity and team building. Do you have any questions for the people who have come?
Not right now, but I'm willing to have more conversation or discussion. Because I found out there's more to know and there's more knowledge in the world. So please be free to talk with me any time.
Thank you very much. Let's get going.